Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another live edition of the WGSN-DB Going Solo Veterans Corner. And of course, I'm your host, retired Army First Sergeant Paul Holbert, and we are glad to have you with us this evening. Thank you so much to our audience who joins us and those who may not watch us live, but do pick us up on the recorded versions of the show that are posted all over the web and various platforms. We really appreciate your patronage of the show, and thank you. It's for our audience like this that has helped us make a list of the top 25 podcasts here to watch in Northern Virginia. So we really appreciate you participating in our show and the emails and the feedback we get from you. Before we introduce our guest, which you can see him sitting over there waiting patiently, I want to take just a moment to thank our sponsors before we get the show started. And of course, Quest Jewelers from Merrifield, Virginia. Folks, I've been telling you guys for a long time now, Quest has some beautiful stuff in their showroom, and whether or not you're looking for something from the showroom or that special piece that can be made for a certain individual, they make custom work and it's beautiful. So give them a call, see what they can do for you. I also want to thank Nationwide IT Services. NIS is a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business owned by retired Army Warrant Officer C.K. Park. C.K. and his crew, he has offices all over the United States as they work for various organizations and government agencies. Whether you need training, IT security, performance management, whatever you need for your business, his folks are there to help you. So give CK and his folks a call and they will definitely be able to help you. I also want to thank our newest sponsor, Hill & Ponton. Hill & Ponton, PA is a veterans disability attorneys. You can see their website, hillandponton.com. Folks, these attorneys work hard. They've been in business for about 30 years. They're working hard for veterans and their families to assist veterans who need help navigating the VA and the SSI to ensure that, our veterans and soldiers get the things that they deserve. So if you're in need of help, if you've been struggling with that and you can't get help, reach out to Hill & Ponton. They've got some excellent folks there. In fact, one of their partners was just on the show not too long ago. So, please reach out to them. They also provide live webinars on their website to give you information about, you notice down at the bottom of the screen, it talks about Fort McClellan. They provide the live websites to give you information, you and your family, so that you have information to talk with them about. So look them up, give them a holler, and tell them that you are definitely interested in talking with them about the VA or SSI. All right, so those are our sponsors, and we'll hear just a quick word from each of them later on in the show. But tonight, I want to take a moment to, first of all, introduce our guest, Larry Zilliox. Larry is actually an Air Force veteran, spent 6 years in the Air Force, and now Larry actually spends quite a bit of time with veterans, helping veterans. He works closely with Willing Warriors, an organization here in Northern Virginia, and we'll talk more about them in a little while. But he is the director of Culinary Services at the Warrior Retreat here in Bull Run, and the creator and team lead of the Visiting Chef program there, where they partner with volunteer chefs to come in and cook for these veterans that are part of the Willing Warriors organization. He also represents the Warrior Retreat with the Northern Virginia Veterans Collaborative and the Virginia Veterans Suicide Coalition, which is a very important part of what we do up here to help veterans who are in need. And Larry, I got to say, man, I mean, you're working all over the place with the DC Military Veteran Advisory Council, and you also have your own podcast, too, to reach out to veterans. So I want to say thank you for joining us and welcome to our podcast tonight.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been looking forward to this, and it's just every opportunity we get to put the word out about the Warrior Retreat and the different programs that we have. We just love to do it.
Well, I tell you, before we talk about that, though, I want to share a little bit with us about your military experience. I had a younger brother that spent 8 years in the Air Force, and of course, I know you're very familiar with the intra-service rivalries among the different services, and me being an old Army first sergeant, I used to give my younger brother the devil about being in the Air Force. But how did you come to be in the Air Force? What put you there?
So I graduated from high school in Illinois. We grew up outside of Chicago in a very small town called Dundee, Illinois, West Dundee. And I graduated high school in 1975. So it's right at the end of Vietnam. And I got a job working for a company in a factory that refurbished large industrial pulleys. And after a year or so of that, I came to the realization that wasn't really a great job. And I said, well, let me look around and see what's going on. And I think I ran into, in a McDonald's, I ran into an Air Force recruiter.
Yeah.
He was in uniform, and he just looked at me. And of course, as a recruiter, he's talking to everybody that was just out of high school or that age. And he bought me lunch, and we went down to his office, and he said, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I'd like to go into the medical field, be a medic or something. And and he said, well, we could try to get you into that. He said, but, Air Force needs come first. Since I wasn't in the Air Force, I didn't know what that meant. It meant, if we have the opportunity, we're going to screw you over. But I signed up, and turned out that they needed cops more than they needed medical people. So I went through basic in San Antonio. And then I went to tech school also at Lackland, and an Army base. We went out to Camp Bullis for Air Base Ground Defense, and that was the start. That was I went in 77.
Okay.
And I got out in 83.
All right.
So I don't know what it was like for the Army, but they like to help you try and choose a really nice assignment for you.
Yeah.
And so they give you this form to fill out. It was called a dream sheet. And you put down your top 3 choices of Air Force bases that you'd like to go to. And they had a map on the wall, and it showed bases around the world. And I decided, well, I kind of like to stay in the United States. And on the back of the folder the manila folder that they gave us, was a map of the United States and where all the bases were. And I saw one in southern Maine, down near Bar Harbor, Maine. And I knew enough to say, well, that's a really nice area that people go there on vacation.
Yeah.
It would really be great if I could be stationed there. That would be awesome. So that was my first choice. And I think when they saw my paperwork and they got through laughing their asses off, they said, okay, we'll give him his first choice. The only problem was that this map was so old that the base had moved to the very top of Maine.
Oh, gosh.
This was some sort of reserve wing thing they had on there. And they assigned me to Loring Air Force Base, which was about 7 miles from the Canadian border at the top of Maine. And needless to say, I nearly froze to death.
Yeah. I
was there. I was there more than a year. When we worked swings, we worked shift work. So the one thing about Maine in the winter is we would work 3 swings from 4 to midnight. We'd have 24 hours off. And then we'd work 3 mids from midnight to 8, and then we'd have 3 days off. So those swing days and middays, I wouldn't see the sun. Because you'd get off, you'd go to bed, you'd wake up, the sun be gone.
Yeah.
It's like you work nights for a week. So I did that for quite a while. and then I got an assignment in typical Air Force fashion. They said, well, where's the opposite of Loring that we could send them? And they sent me to Guam.
Oh gosh.
So I got to Guam, and I spent 3 years, 2 months, 18 days, 10 hours, and 32 minutes on Guam.
Not that you were counting, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was a nice assignment. I got to admit,
Yeah.
It was much better than freezing to death.
Yeah.
I learned to scuba dive there. You know, great. It was a pretty good assignment. Every once in a while, we'd have a typhoon, make things a little sketchy, but overall, it's nice. And from there, we're able to hop out to Korea, Australia, Japan, see that, you know, get to travel. And so, you know, as my time wound down, I had a 4-year enlistment, but I knew that with that 4-year enlistment came a 2-year reserve commitment.
Yeah. And
about the time of my 4 years was running out, I said, I'm going to extend for 2 years. So when I'm done, I'm done. They can't get me back. I'm done. And so I did. I extended for 2 years, spent more time on Guam. My last duty assignment was Kirtland Air Force Base in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which when people hear New Mexico and they think desert, which is appropriate, what I wasn't prepared for was that it was cold there. And coming from Guam, I got to Albuquerque and I was freezing to death. And I remember asking, you know, where's the cold weather gear? And they looked at me like I was insane. And I had to go down to an Army surplus store in Albuquerque and buy big gloves and a jacket. And I found a helmet liner. Those old with the big wide Velcro strap.
Yep.
And I realized that what I could do with that strap is turn it up and Velcro them together so they looked like bunny ears. And it just drove my officers crazy. They kept telling me I couldn't wear it. And I said, well, you know, I think I can, because what are you going to do about it, really? I'm short and I just want to get out of here. So they would just leave me alone. But that's where I finished my assignment. So that was 6 years for me I was in.
So yeah, and you know, I got to tell you, I haven't been to Bar Harbor myself. My wife and I were there, and you're right, we were there. Actually, took a cruise up the east coast of Nova Scotia. Bar Harbor is a really nice area, and some nice seafood up there. My wife loved the lobster, but yeah, they kind of hooked you when they moved you way up north there. So you did 6 years. Was there anything in particular that told you while you were in that, yeah, I don't think I want to stay a career? Did you ever think about it, or did you just want to make sure you did your full commitment?
Well, yeah, I mean, there was very often times where it just seemed like we were overcome by chaos, and leadership just was, I couldn't mesh with leadership and the things that didn't make sense to me. You know, we were on Guam, for instance. We were guarding nuclear weapons. Security police I did both law enforcement and security police, depending on where I was at.
Yeah.
And Guam is a SAC base. So when you're in SAC, once you're in SAC, they don't let go of you. You're going to go to another SAC base. And SAC bases usually fall either bombers or missiles. So if you're going to be in missiles, you're going to be in one of the northern tier bases in the United States. If you're going to be bombers, you be in the United States, or you'll be out on Guam. That's where the bombers were at the time. And, you know, so we were guarding Priority A nuclear weapons, but, you know, they gave us M60 machine guns. We had to carry boxes of ammunition. They had M203 grenade launchers on our M16s. And I finally asked, I said, why are we lugging all this crap around? We're on an island. Who is going to attack us? You know, and they said, well, helicopter denial. I said, the only people who have a helicopter is the Coast Guard. Who are you kidding? I said, these M60s, if we start firing these things, they're going to start killing people in the housing area, and
Yeah.
So I just had trouble putting things together and seeing the way things were run. It was a bit much for me, but look, as well as I do, the absolute hands down best part of your military service is your tribe, the people that you bond with during your service.
Yeah.
And then you are friends with them for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
The only thing that stops you being friends with them is that when they get called home, you just don't get to see them anymore.
Yeah.
But you were talking about a relationship that people who don't serve don't understand. They just don't get it. That tribe and those people that you are willing to put your life on the line for, that's a special bond that unfortunately can't be replicated in civil society. And so it's one of the reasons why so many of our veterans have issues assimilating back into civilian life. But
yeah, it's interesting you should say that, because that's so many of my guests come on the show and they pretty much allude to the same point that you just raised. And I mean, I can tell you yesterday, I just had about a 15-minute conversation with one of my NCOs that worked for me at Fort Benning as an instructor. And, of course, that was, oh my gosh, we're talking 95, 05, 15, right? We're talking, that was over 20 years ago. And he and I still keep in touch. Several of them that I worked with still keep in touch. I've got other people, like you that we served with. And you're right. That is one of the unique things I think about the military and being a veteran, is you have that relationship. So for you were ready to finish your commitment and then move on and move into civilian life. So Larry, what we're going to do though is we're just going to take a quick short break. And when we come back on the other side, we're going to continue our conversation, because I want you to share with us how you got into the chef business, so to speak, and what you're doing at Willing Warriors and all the things that you guys are doing. So for those of you in the audience, if you hold on for a moment, we'll be right back after you see this from our sponsors.
In service of our nation, You gave everything you had. You sacrificed your comfort, your peace, and sometimes even your well-being. Over 3 decades, Hill & Ponton has helped to be a guiding light for veterans seeking their rightful disability benefits. When our heroes are in need, we are not just lawyers, we're an ally, a team who understands the struggles you faced. If you're a veteran seeking the benefits you deserve, let us stand with you on this journey, because every battle deserves a hero, and no hero should fight alone.
All right, everyone, welcome back. And of course, you've been watching the WGSN-DB Going Solo Veterans Corner. And we've been talking with our our guest tonight, Larry Zilliox. I'm sorry about that. Larry's not actually a ghost. He's still here with us. So Larry, it's interesting. You spent your 6 years in the Air Force and you felt, okay, yeah, it's time for me to move on. And so how did you go from there to getting into the culinary arts and doing what you're doing now, like you're doing at Willing Warriors?
Well, there was a big break in there between the two. So I separated in 83, and for 30 years, I had my own company. I was a private investigator.
Oh, okay.
So I specialized in political opposition research, and we just didn't do divorce work. So I had my own company, and then about 13 years ago, our church was having a fundraiser for an organization I hadn't heard of, Serve Our Willing Warriors, and it was a concert by a really great band called the White House Band, actually. And that's where I found out about Serve Our Willing Warriors, and that they had purchased this house here in Haymarket and were remodeling it and going to turn it into a retreat for wounded warriors. And so we took a tour. The place was gutted. It's 37 acres, beautiful property. And I said, they're looking for volunteers. And I said, well, I have some time, my own schedule. I can make time. And so, well, what do you need? What kind of, what do you need volunteers to do? Well, we need people to help us with the house. I said, you mean the one that's all tore apart here? Because I don't have any skills. And my wife was like, no, you don't want him to do anything with a hammer or anything. And so I said, but I do like to eat and cook, and I have a food blog that nobody reads. But how about a visiting chef program? So when you open, what if we found some chefs to come on a Saturday, Sunday night, and make dinner for the family? And our founders, John and Shirley, said, well, that sounds great. And so I got involved. I started volunteering and took on many roles. We were in guest services, all sorts of different roles. I finally closed up my company about 6 years ago, and my wife had a wonderful job, and she said, well, you can volunteer there or be on staff, but you have to make dinner every night and do the dishes. And so I agreed.
What a deal, huh?
Yeah. And so in 2012, Serve Our Willing Warriors purchased this property and asked the community to help us remodel the home and make it suitable to invite wounded warriors and their families from Walter Reed, Fort Belvoir Community Hospital, or actually any of the other 14 soldier recovery units around the country. And we got community participation, got about $1.4 million worth of work went into the house, completely furnished, remodeled by contractors and companies, all donated.
Wow.
And in 2015, on July 4th, we had the ribbon cutting for the main house, what we call the Lang House. It was originally built in 77, 78 by a Dr. Lang and his wife. He worked for the Department of Defense. They had no kids, but they built this 11,000 square foot home up here on the hill. And so we opened it, did the ribbon cutting, and then we started to have our first guests on the week of Veterans Day in 2015. And we continued that for a couple of years. And in 2019, late 2018, Penn Fed Foundation come alongside of us and said, we'd like to help fund a second house on the property. And we said, great, yeah. And they donated $300,000.
Oh.
But for your listeners and folks who aren't in the Northern Virginia area,
Yeah.
let me tell you, $300,000 doesn't get you much of a house in Prince William County.
Yes, you're right.
Own the property.
Yeah.
The Northern Virginia Heavy Contractors Association stepped up, put another $260,000 into in-kind donations, the site work, the patio, the driveway, the septic, the well, all that. We then did the ribbon cutting on that house in 2019, and in March of 2019, we began to invite families to stay in that house as well. So when the families, we work with the commands at both Walter Reed and Fort Belvoir, and we look for families that have been in the hospital for a year or more, and they need a break from that. And we invite them out for 5 nights. They come and stay, check in on Friday, and they check out on Wednesday. We intentionally did that so that they'd only need to use 3 days of leave.
Yeah.
And so we do an up tempo of 3 guest days in a row, and then we take a week off. During that week off from March through November, on that Saturday, we have what we call Beautification Day, and we have the community come out, sign up and come out to help weed, put mulch down, pick up sticks, paint, do all sorts of odd jobs that we can't really do ourselves. And part of the reason why we can't do it ourselves is because we have one full-time employee, and that's our executive director. Myself and 4 others, 5 of us are part-time employees who work full-time, but that's it. Everything else is done by volunteer.
Yeah.
And so the families come and they stay, they check in on Friday. We have 1 family in each house, and we encourage them to fill it up. Each house is 5 bedrooms, up to 10 adults, mom, dad, aunt, and uncle, grandma, grandpa, whoever they want to bring, other battle buddies from the hospital.
Yeah.
Fill it up, enjoy it, have a great time. While they're here, we have about 20, 25 on-site and off-site activities that they can sign up for. They have a guest stay coordinator that will coordinate their itinerary and all their appointments, but they can do a helicopter ride. They can do a shooting experience with an original SEAL Team 6 member, horseback riding. They can go out to White Post and go tour an antique automobile restoration facility, massage therapy, whatever they want. We will pretty much be able to get it for them. And then each family gets a professional photo shoot while they're here. So they have great memories of their time as a family here. And then each family gets a visiting chef night. So this is a program that I started because food is so important and it's so healing. And we have today 126 chefs on our mailing list.
Oh, wow.
So when we have a guest stay assigned, I will send out an email to all the chefs and say, we have these dinners coming up. And the chef will say, okay, I want to do that one. More than half of our chefs are military chefs. We have the finest military chefs in the world here in the Northern Virginia, the DMV. We have chefs from the White House, Presidential Food Service. They're mostly Navy chefs. There's a Marine Corps and Coast Guard chef there, but primarily it's a Navy mess down at the White House. So they come out 2 or 3 at a time and do a dinner for the family. Frida Carini is a Navy chief. She's in charge of the Navy chefs at the Naval Observatory for the vice president. She's also the only military chef who's ever competed on the TV show Chopped and won.
Oh, okay.
We have Johnny Tolman, who's a Coast Guard chef. He's the Military Chef of the Year for 2023. In addition to being Military Chef of the Year, nationwide, all chefs try to be certified through what's called the American Culinary Federation. And that organization has a yearly conference, and they have a competition amongst all the best chefs in the country. And we're so proud that Johnny Tolman, our Coast Guard chef, took first place and is the best chef in the country. So this program works for a couple of reasons. One, our guests tend to be younger service members, injured in combat or training. They're not typically at a place in their life where they can afford $300 for dinner for two at Salamander Resort or Three Blacksmiths or Alias, any of these top restaurants. So we bring that chef to them, and they make them usually the best meal they've ever had in their life. A lot of them suffer from post-traumatic stress. And when you have post-traumatic stress and you're hypervigilant, going out to a restaurant is not an enjoyable experience. It's too noisy. It's too much commotion. So we have families and spouses that say, this is amazing because we haven't been out to eat in years. And so it's just another way for them to enjoy that meal here. And our chefs love to train and teach. We get the families in the kitchen. We show them how to make simple meals with great ingredients, amazing dinners for them. And it's just a wonderful time. We also have special programs that we do. Our founders started this organization because their pastor and their church challenged them to go out in the community, find a way to give back, but they couldn't write a check. They actually had to do something. So they took their three small daughters and went to Walter Reed for a holiday party and gave out pizzas and gifts. The party started at 4:30. They got there around 4. By 4:30, they were wiped out. They had to stand there and tell other warriors, we're sorry, we just don't have anything for you. And that shook them to their core, and they kept going back. And that turned into a barbecue in the summer and a holiday party in the winter. Well, we still honor that tradition. And I take my staff chefs. I have about 13 volunteer staff chefs, and we do what we call a barbecue. Internally, we'll call it the barbecue. Yeah, we don't give them barbecue because everybody gives them barbecue. Mission barbecue, churches. We do taco lunches. We do Italian lunches. We do Swedish meatball lunches. But we usually do that for about 200 each summer at the USO at both Fort Belvoir and Walter Reed. And then for Thanksgiving, we do what we call a home away from home dinner. And we do a home-cooked Thanksgiving dinner for about 80 warriors and family members right here at the retreat. And we cook all day. Friday we do ingredients. Saturday we cook everything. And Sunday we have them out for dinner. And it's just a great time. And we cook twice as much as what they eat so that they all get to go home with leftovers. It's a really big operation, but it's great. We have a good time. And the chefs are wonderful. That is going to actually take place this year in our brand new Grand Lodge that we built here on the property. So May 18th, we did the ribbon cutting on our Grand Lodge, which is a $1.3 million, 6,000 square foot home with 6 bedrooms, and has an outdoor patio pavilion, and an outdoor kitchen with a big green egg for smoking, an inline propane grill, and a wood-fired pizza oven. And this particular house, though, the Grand Lodge is not for families. The Grand Lodge we use for groups to come out and to go through courses or training or counseling. We work with Mighty Oaks, which is a faith-based counseling group out of Texas that has programs to help veterans with severe PTS. We did a leadership challenge summer camp for teenagers this summer. We work with Captain Wooten, the chaplain from the Soldier Recovery Unit at Fort Belvoir. She brings out soldiers for moral injury courses, and then family for moral injury courses next month. And then the last month that'll be coming up here shortly will be medical personnel that have to help the wounded for moral injury courses. So that facility is it's amazing. It's 6 bedrooms, but also it has a 2,000 square foot activity room on the back of the house, which is where we do all the training, and it has all the audio, visual, and all that kind of stuff. So,
I was going to say what I think is interesting is you started a lot of that off with your chef program, and then it's morphed into so much more than that. And the support you guys have gotten from the community, just sounds incredible. But something I do want to touch on before we finish is something I think that a lot of us, especially, vets, think that's important is, you're also reaching out with some of the other coalitions, but especially the Northern Virginia Veteran Suicide Coalition. And I think that's, in addition to the work you're doing there at Willing Warriors with your chef program and being the culinary director and leading a lot of that, I think, it's spending time working with the Veteran Suicide Coalition is just so important, and kind of partners with the work that you guys are doing with all of these wounded service members and their families. So, I just wanted to say thank you for that, because I understand how important that is with what you guys are doing.
Well, we have always worked around the philosophy from the very beginning that our goal here is to surreptitiously convince the warrior that their family is not better off without them.
Yeah.
We get soldiers who come here from the hospitals that are in very dark places because they have seen the toll that their injuries take on their family.
Yeah.
They're uprooted to come to live with them at the hospital. The kids are homeschooled in the car or the doctor's office. They eat poorly. And it takes a toll on the family. And they get these crazy ideas that if they just took their own life, that their family could go home and be normal again.
Yeah.
And everything we do here is family oriented. Every activity, everything we do is to convince them that their family is not better off without them. So every activity is family activity. So there's no games on the TVs here. We get people who want to donate all these games for the TV. We don't take them. We don't want them sitting in front of the TV the whole time. We want them around the fire pit. We have 6 fire pits on the property. Each house has a fire pit. We get some more kits donated to us. They're out there every night. It's just amazing. But we're a proud founding members of the Northern Virginia Veteran Suicide Coalition. And corresponding with that, I developed a program called Operation Save the Number. And so hopefully most of your listeners are aware that last year the suicide hotline number in the United States changed. By law, it was changed from a long 800 number that nobody could remember to 988. So today, if you pick up a phone anywhere in the country and dial 988, you'll be talking to a suicide hotline counselor. If you dial 988 plus 1, you'll be directed to a veteran suicide hotline counselor.
Oh, that's interesting.
With the VA. And that counselor will help you and enter you into the VA system right then and there. So we have a marketing program underway called HOPE, is spelled 988 plus 1. The Veterans Crisis Line, and Operation Save the Number. And Operation Save the Number is a really simple brochure. It's available on our webpage. And what this brochure does is it talks to veterans about saving that number in their buddy's phone. And there's instructions here on how to save that number in an Android phone or an iPhone. So I have an Android phone. If my buddy has an iPhone, I don't know how to work it. But here's the instructions for me to save that number in his phone and say to him, look, if you're having a bad day, call me. But if I don't answer, I want you to call this number, because anything we can do to put a pause in that process to keep them from taking a step that is going to just devastate everyone, we need to do it. And it's a simple program. It's a great way to get the word out. And if you go to our webpage, you can go to programs and you'll see Operation Save the Number. The brochure is right there as a downloadable PDF. And you can download it, give it out, do whatever you want with it. But we really, really encourage people to take a look at it. And if you're a veteran, save that number in your phone. I know what veterans tell me all the time. I don't need it. I don't need it. Yeah, okay, I get it. You don't need it, but save it in your phone so that you'll have it when your buddy, you get to your buddy's phone.
So yeah, somebody might need that. But I got to tell you, Larry, I mean, it's great listening to the wonderful things you guys are doing there at Willing Warriors, from your culinary program to all these services to the families, and how you've linked up with the community. But I got to ask you, as we wrap up the show, if you had just one message you would like to share with the audience, what would it be?
I think don't be afraid to talk to veterans. Don't be afraid to ask them how they're doing. Your uncle, your brother, your neighbor, whoever it is. If you know they served, ask them. Ask them how they're doing. We don't say thank you for your service here. The sign out front, we have a huge sign at the beginning of the driveway, and it says, "Welcome home."
Yeah.
And my podcast is Welcome Home, a podcast for veterans, about veterans, by veterans. And it's just, that's the one thing. Don't be afraid to engage with veterans. They are the pillars of your community. They are giving back still. They're out there in veteran organizations doing work. You look at, we have this massive hurricane coming, and we will have organizations full of veterans. Team Rubicon will be on the ground down there, and that's just veteran-driven organization.
Yeah.
So veterans are still in your community. They're serving as your policemen. They're serving as your firefighters. They're serving their community. They continue to serve their community. Thank them, and don't be afraid to engage with them and ask them how they're doing.
Well, you know what? That's good advice. And I try to do that whenever I can, whenever I see another veteran, but that's definitely good advice. So Larry, I got to tell you, it's been great to talk with you this evening. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show and share with us what Willing Warriors is doing, and what you're doing there in the program. I think is really great. And for those of our audience out there, don't forget Willing Warriors. What is Willing Warriors? There you go. Thank you, Silvera. There's willingwarriors.org. Yep. There's the website. You can go on there and take a look, see if there's ways that you can help, donate, look at what the local community is doing. And even if you're not from here, I'm sure there are ways that you can donate and help them out. So for the audience, please take the time to take a look. And again, Larry, I want to thank you so much for spending time and coming on the show with us this evening.
Well, Paul, I really appreciate the opportunity to tell you about our wonderful organization. Thank you.
All right. And thank you so much for the rest of our audience out there. Don't forget, for those of you veterans and your families, we do thank you for your service. We thank you for continuing to do the things that you do. And we hope that you are getting the help that you need and living the life that you want to live after leaving the service. So thank you so much. And for the rest of our audience, don't forget, you're watching the Going Solo Veterans Corner on the new streamingnetwork.com. And we hope to see you on our next show. So thank you for watching.